Excellent. All right, let's go. Thanks everyone for joining and listening to another episode of the Diverse Podcast, the #1 careers podcast on the planet. This time I am alongside Naz from UNiDAYS, who has an incredible role and incredible experience, I think, as well in her career so far that I think is going to be really, really useful for you guys. So Naz, do you want to say a quick hello to everyone listening?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Naz. I work at UNiDAYS. I'm the Global Customer Success Team Lead. I've been at UNiDAYS for around 6 years now. Feels like a lifetime. Yeah, and I'm very excited to be here and talk to you all about my journey.
Awesome. 6 years and still going strong. You must really, really enjoy it. So that's fantastic. So why don't you start there and let us know a little bit about your journey to kind of get into UNiDAYS and maybe what you learned along the way that might be useful.
Yeah. So I actually started working at UNiDAYS straight after university. So once I left university from DMU, whoever is listening and went to DMU is probably the best university ever. It's very chill, relaxed,
Nice.
and is in my home city, Leicester. So I studied international business, and I assume, like many people who graduate, you don't know what to do. You're kind of lost. There is literally nowhere where you can go because everything sounds so interesting. And at university, I feel like they still don't equip you to go forward in life and your career. So I came out of university, but for DMU, we had this really great program, which was around graduates and entering them into the workforce. So I applied to a few internships and I took part in very short internships to get me prepared as to what I really liked and what I didn't like. From that, I very quickly found out what I didn't like. And I was like, nope, not going to do this ever again. 6 weeks, I'm done. But what I did find was I had a knack for sales and speaking to people. So I found out, UNiDAYS was actually hiring. So I applied and I got rejected. And I was like, hey, that is it. Never going to apply again. But then they came out with another role, which was around outreaching to brands and bringing brands onto the platform. And I actually didn't understand the job role. I just thought it was really cool and I'm going to apply again. Second time lucky. So I applied again and I actually got an interview. So applied, got in, and actually got the job after around 2 rounds of interviews. And my university really helped me. I think the career department at DMU was really good. And then once I got in, it was just upwards from here on out. So I then got promoted 6 months in. I moved to a different department. I was promoted again. And it just got crazier and crazier. And every time I spoke to my friends, I was like, I'm doing this, I'm flying to New York, I'm going to London, and this and that. And they were like, Naz, it sounds like whatever you're doing is just crazy. It's like you're a celebrity or something. But yeah, it was really, really fun. I really enjoyed it. And yes, 6 years, and here I am leading my own team of 6. And my entire team are so incredible and super gifted. And yeah, here I am.
Wow. What a story. I mean, yeah, to be managing 6 people as well after 6 years and have a role like this. I've got so many questions. And also, by the way, my brother went to DMU. He absolutely loved it as well. You might have been there at the same time, actually. We'll have to check that later. But yeah, I went to DMU a couple of times to sort of visit. And yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned at the beginning there that you did 6 weeks of certain things and you figured out you didn't want to do that. What were those things and how did you know that wasn't the right thing for you?
I think so. One of them was definitely working for a very small company in the heart of Loughborough. And from that, I definitely knew I didn't want to be in an office environment where it's boxed off, it's very closed, very few people. I really wanted to work at a place that was global and had a global presence. So it meant that I had that career opportunity to kind of go forward. And also, I didn't want to become a teacher. I felt like I can't do this. I can't be in such a pressured environment, constantly working around very active children and so on. So I just kind of figured out that wasn't going to gel with my personality. But funnily enough, as part of my career in UNiDAYS, I actually had to then train individuals. So it was sort of like me teaching people. So funnily, the universe works in a very strange way.
Yeah, and I think it is so powerful to kind of try things and learn what you don't want to do. It saves you so much time. And I like what you said there about thinking about your personality, because I think not everyone does that. And we go into roles sometimes and you realize you do it for 6, 7, 8 months, a year, and you go, actually, this doesn't suit me at all. Like, I don't know,
Yeah,
for example, you might not be the person. I always think this is a good example. Like if you do a group holiday with your mates, right? And there's usually that person that wants to like do a load of the analytics beforehand and like compare all the hotels, the pricing, make a spreadsheet. And then there's other people that just like to get on holiday and they just wing it. And they just go like, whatever will be, will be. We'll just wing it. And
yeah,
I'm more like the latter. And so, why should I then try and go into a role where I don't know, I've got to work in law and I've got to analyze every little piece of information,
yeah,
every little word, like as opposed to doing the kind of thing that we're doing now, which is like talking to people and or doing sales, like you mentioned. Obviously, I'm gonna enjoy a role more like that rather than something that's super analytical, super data driven. That isn't me out. If it's not me outside of work, why would it be me inside of work?
and it's so soul sucking. I feel like life, and I say this all the time. I had COVID 2 years ago, and from that, like I had to take long-term sick leave, but it really gave me perspective on life, and I feel like I became really spiritual and in my element, found my purpose in that time. But I think life is actually really long, and it's so long that we shouldn't spend our moments in horrible situations or situations where you're not finding joy, and that includes working, because working takes up so much of your time anyways. I remember seeing this graph where it showed like the amount of time spent with your friends and then your colleagues and then your children, your partners, and the graph like really shows like from your 20s to your, I think it was at your 50s, you spend so much time with your co-workers and at work. So why should you be in an environment where you're not enjoying who you're working with or where you're working? I think that's like such a important factor to take into consideration. So I highly recommend people, even taking quizzes. I make everyone who joins my team take 16 personalities quiz, which is a really good quiz to kind of find out what kind of personality type you have and what careers would suit you, and how you are in relationships as well. It's sort of like the horoscopes, but for corporate world. That's what I like to put it as. It's a really great site, and it gives you an in-depth analysis as to your personality type.
Definitely, it's so funny you mentioned that because we're just building a course now, and one module is to help people understand and just or decide which direction they might want to go into, and part of it is taking a similar quiz as well. So it's very very timely, and I definitely saw that graph as well on LinkedIn doing the rounds in
Yeah,
terms of the time. So you got like time, and then you've got the amount of time you spend with like your family, your co-workers, and obviously it's a
yeah,
huge amount of time, as you said, in your early 20s. And I think that's a good takeaway of like a lot of people I think have a bit of a pressure to think, oh, I've got to go work for this type of company. I need to get this type of role because of how that will look or what my parents will think or so on. And then you neglect what will actually make you happy or what you're actually suited to as an individual as well. So I think that's one brilliant lesson already to really think personally for you, because there's no getting around it. It's a hell of a lot of time working, so you might as well be somewhere where you're happy. For you now in your role, for anyone who maybe doesn't know, customer success is quite a unique title, really. So what does that mean? What does that mean exactly to customer success? And perhaps if you could give us some examples of any brands or the types of projects maybe that you work on.
yeah. So I actually didn't know what customer success was, and it didn't really exist at UNiDAYS until I want to say 3, 4 years ago. So customer success is still a new function for us, but it has been around for many, many years. And essentially, it's a department within a business to connect your customers to the business products and services. So within UNiDAYS, the way that we work with our partners, we split our partners up into different categories. So if you go into the UNiDAYS website or the app, you'll see different categories. So you'll see fashion, you'll see technology, you'll see food. So for myself, I work within the fashion category. I've worked across Nike, Adidas, all your big brands like Ray-Ban, and so on, which has been very, very exciting in itself. So what the customer success team do is works with those partners, so the brands, and execute campaigns to work on their branding, but really work with them to connect to the Gen Z audience or the members that we have on our platform. So it's a very intense role, but it's also very rewarding because you get to work with all the different departments. So if you are starting off at university and you're not really sure where you want to end up, I think it's a really good function to start off in, because you're connected to all the teams internally, but also you've got that client exposure. So you're picking up so many skills in one go, and you can figure out like, oh yeah, like I really like working with marketing. Maybe that's somewhere I want to take my career to. We've had people within our team do that. So it's a very, I like to say, a very beautiful role to step into.
Definitely, yeah, because it gives you exposure to lots of departments internally. I actually did a similar-ish role when I was at BT in some ways, obviously not exactly the same, but I totally get that. So you get exposure internally, which is great for networking, which we're going to talk a little bit about, but also in understanding those different departments. And then also you get the benefit for your CV, and also just, to enjoy your working life of working with some cool brands as well. So I suppose if anyone's listening, is there like the type of individual that would be more suited to that? I mean, I'm guessing you're going to have to be very personable. You're going to have to, you're going to be developing skills in account management and client management, right? So yeah, have I got that right?
Yeah, definitely. Someone who's personable, but you don't have to be. I think there's such a focus on, oh, you have to be an extrovert to work in commercial or sales environments. And that's not necessarily true. And I really figured that out after I joined UNiDAYS, that there's so many wide ranges of personalities that people can kind of come out of the shell, and be very extroverted, but then when they're alone or at their desk, they become an introvert, and that's okay. You can recharge yourself in different ways. But I think personality and being, having a focus and being interesting is very key to kind of connect. And I'll go into that in a little while when we go into the topic of networking internally and building yourself. But I think also just knowing how to stay organized and focused, that's super important. So as a customer success manager or someone working in customer success, you have a lot of deadlines and you're working with the different teams. So there's a lot of people who are relying on you, but you're also relying on other people. So keeping yourself organized and knowing those kind of techniques is super, super important.
Got it. Wonderful. No, that's super helpful. And yeah, it's interesting. I think it opens your mind a little bit, because it's not the type of role, not everyone's heard of it before, right? So it's not necessarily you're going to come out of uni or college or whatever you've done and think, oh, I definitely want to work in customer success. But if that sounds interesting, then obviously have a look at UNiDAYS in particular. Your journey, I think, from even, once you got your first role at UNiDAYS, you accelerated really quickly. So give us some keys to success there. If anyone's listening and maybe they've got a job now, or maybe they're about to, how do you go about doing really well to ensure you're getting promoted, you're getting pay increases and things like that? What would be your advice based on what you've learned?
Yeah. For me, it was very accidental. So I didn't start my career at UNiDAYS thinking, this is what I want to do, this is my game plan. And I know some people are very focused in life, and that's amazing. It's great. And you can be that person. And you can also be a person like me who has nothing planned or written out, because you like to go with the flow and just follow whatever the vibes are that day. That's okay. But I think my initial success could be put down to three things. And that's three things that I want to really shout out about whilst we're talking. So asking lots of questions. I asked so many questions. And I think when I was asking loads of questions, I wasn't afraid if they were silly or if they were clever. I didn't care. I just wanted to know. So being curious really opened doors for me. And with that, I opened a door to the ops team. And there was a great guy. I absolutely loved working with him. His name's Ian. Checking him out. He was so great. I was so upset when he left. But when I was asking lots of questions about a system, a tool that no one liked using, but I started using it, and I was asking him all these questions, and I found out he was super passionate about it. And because he was passionate about it and he saw I was asking questions, he took me under his wing and he was like, right, Naz, you can help me on this project, and just yeah, help me sort some stuff out that other people don't want to be doing. So along my day job, I was also helping him on this project. And with that, he saw the work that I was doing, and I was promoted into his team. So it was incredible. Like within 7 months, I was pitched to go into his team. And yeah, I was part of the operations team and never thought about me joining a different team. But that was one kind of area that I would definitely recommend people doing. Just be curious and ask lots of questions. The other bit was me networking internally. I, again, didn't know that I was doing this, but before the pandemic, people were in the office. So I had a lot of water cooler chat. The kitchen was a place to be. I was a very nervous person. I was so shy. You can ask other people at UNiDAYS what their first impression of me was. And there's a guy called Tom Sterrett, and he's a really close friend as well. And he always tells everyone who's new right now, he always says, he's like, Naz was the shyest person I've ever met, because I was so quiet and I didn't want to speak up in front of other people. But what I did was the kitchen became my safe spot. So when I would make a cup of tea or get water, I would make conversation with other people. And with that, I created this sort of network, and I was networking unintentionally. I think networking has such a derogative, dirty word to it. Like when you mention the word networking, people cringe or they back off and they're like, I can't do this, forget the shit. Whereas I think if you kind of reframe it into a way of saying networking to just get to know people, I think it's a little bit more palatable. And that's what I was doing. So I think networking doesn't really stop even after you get a job. So once you enter the workforce, it's really important to kind of establish yourself and networking internally and get to know the other departments. So with that, I got to know people from finance and our production teams and so on. And I created those networks, but with no other hidden agenda behind it. I just wanted to know what they did and have a little bit of empathy, like, oh, I get what you do now, and this is your struggle, and I know about it, and you're talking to me about it, and that's great. But we're not connected because what I'm doing in my day job has nothing to do with what you're doing in your day job. However, with that, it became super important because as I was promoted and I moved up the ranks, I then started working with that department. And because I had those connections already, people were pitching for me without me knowing. So I didn't have to go and kind of sweeten people up. It was a genuine relationship that I had with my colleagues already, and they were pitching for me, saying like, Naz is the best person for this job. We should have her in this project. We should move her up. We should promote her. And that's how I kind of moved my way upwards, because people were speaking so positively about me. And then the final thing is, I would say, is establishing your identity and your brand. I think as someone who comes into the workforce, you're kind of like, you don't know who you are, or you may know who you are, and you may have these interests, but you're like, I want to keep work and my personal life separate, and that's totally fine. But I think really talking about your passions can also open up other doors and opportunities for you. So you might be a runner, and that could kind of connect you to other runners within your workplace, and you form a little club with them. So for me, I love cooking, and I created this little space where people came together and we shared recipes, and it was like really great. And we were talking about like what spices to add to your food, and it was like a very, very cringy thing, but because I started talking about it and other people also talked about it, we kind of created these identities and branding for ourselves. So now, like, I really like talking about meditation and spirituality because it's something that I'm really passionate about. And people just know, like, oh, Naz knows how, like, what the upcoming events are in like this space in meditation. And I'll go out and recommend events that I think people might be interested in. And people will know, like, this is the person to go to for these really niche events or interests. We have some people who are super passionate about sneakers, and if you need tips for sneakers, we know like you need to go to this person because they are interested in it and they can speak so passionately about it. So I think don't hide your personality or your personal brand. Like really be proud about it, even if you think it's cringe or weird. Like it's really, really important to kind of stand out, especially in a place where everyone's trying to be the same.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you answered so many
I
questions
probably
in one
spoke a
there.
lot.
No, that was amazing. I mean, it's just to summarize as well. I mean, it's amazing to hear how powerful it was just asking questions, like build rapport, show you're keen, then get opportunities as you did later on. And then your second 2 points are kind of interconnected, because I was thinking, and I get asked this a lot, how do we like network authentically so it doesn't feel like really weird?
Yeah,
And you
like
probably
it
need a
has to feel
better word
genuine,
for it.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it probably needs a we probably need a different word for it, but it's kind of like, literally just having that time in the kitchen just to get to know people a little bit better as individuals. And then that's going to obviously build a strong connection between the two of you. And then talking about your passions is kind of the way you make friends anyway, right? You kind of make friends with people usually that are passionate about the same things as you. So that's one of the best ways probably to, well, not probably, definitely to build rapport and network, but is by sharing as well, like what you're, if you've got a love for travel or food or cycling or whatever it is, and connecting to someone else on that basis. And that just expands your friendships, but also, your connections within the business as well. So I think that's, yeah, a lot of big gems in there. I wanted to also mention as well now, because it's connected a little bit to what we're talking about, is the importance of mentorship. And we actually have a program with UNiDAYS where we are connecting up candidates from our network at Diverse to employees at UNiDAYS who are mentoring them over a period of a few months, which is amazing. And I know you're something you're really passionate as well about. So thank you for that. And I think that has a huge impact, right, on your career if you are able to get a mentor, who has more experience in your area that you're interested in. And potentially there's the opportunity to get a mentor with UNiDAYS from our program as well. So any thoughts on that, the importance of having a mentor in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's such a phenomenal thing that you're doing, Toby, like with mentorship in general and opening up that opportunity for people, because a mentor can make a really big difference to someone. Mentorship can also be reversed as well. So mentors also learn from other people. I know the people that I've mentored, I've learned so much from them and that empathy. But also as someone entering the workforce, I think finding someone that you connect with or go to for advice is super important. And you may not even realize, but some people in your life may already be mentors. It doesn't have to be an official like a person or entity saying like, I'm your mentor, I'm going to mentor you now. It could be someone like your mom. I speak to my mom all the time about everything, and she also jokes, she's like, I should just work for UNiDAYS, because I go to her for so many life advices, because she's done it before. And even though my mom didn't go to university or didn't have a corporate job, she's got the life experience of dealing with people. So I think finding smart people who've done it before and just being brave to ask them questions and getting those answers from them, those can be your mentors. It doesn't matter if you don't have an official outlet. But I think in terms of mentoring, finding someone where you're connected with and just speaking to them about areas that you want to grow on, or you think that you don't even have an idea about, they can really guide you to kind of go far and open up new opportunities for you. I think I was actually reading this week that even asking your manager like for feedback, like not using the word for feedback, but saying, oh, where can I improve on, that like you can find more gems from that by just changing your tone and saying like, what do you think I should improve on, or what area should I focus on? You can get more gems from that. And again, your manager could also be your mentor. You can just need to reframe the way you're looking at things.
100%. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, shout out to all the old moms out there that are doubling up as mentors, because yeah, that's you get this, you can get the same benefit, can't you, from people in your personal life anyway. Could you talk to us about what it's like from your perspective being a woman of color in the workplace? And you mentioned that you are really striving for real positive change in that area as well. So I'd love to hear more about that and what you have to share on that topic, because a lot of people will be listening and feel maybe that there aren't that many people of color in the places that they're working in, or perhaps they want to make a difference and improve the organization in some way. So yeah, please share what you have on that topic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I'm very, very passionate about. I think as someone who is a person of color and a woman working in tech or advertising, it's actually quite rare. Like when I first started 6 years ago, I think I was the only person of color and woman within my team. And I could actually see that. So I would often find, and I'm sure you can relate and other people can relate who's listening, but you code switch. You don't kind of speak the way that you usually speak when you're with your friends. You code switch and you kind of create this other personality that's more palatable for other people. And I don't think it should always be like that. Like, yes, okay, you need to be professional, but you should also be yourself. It's so exhausting being someone else. But yeah, as someone who is now in a position who's able to hire who I want to be in my team, there are like definitely other ways that we've kind of developed as a company. So right now, I actually had a meeting this morning that we're for CVs, we're crossing off names and any other important information that might kind of give away someone's identity, which is a really important thing that I think other businesses need to have. But even hiring a diverse team, I feel like that is so important. Like not only do other people feel comfortable, but also you're bringing a diverse range of experiences, but also opinions that can really help develop your solutions. So I think businesses really need to do that. So it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I could speak about it all the time. I go to lots of events, and I'm like trying to push the message about like women in tech and developing ourselves and having that seat at the table for women, or creating our own table if that table is full. But yeah, I think as anyone entering the workforce, like don't ever dim your own light just to fit in. Be yourself and be proud of who you are and speak your truth and your identity. Like don't wash it out just because you want to fit in.
I love that quote of not ever dimming your own light. I think that's so important because I think we all do that, and I catch myself doing that, and then think, well, actually, no, let me try this first, and then
Yeah,
find out that whatever I've created isn't, let me try it and fail before I tell myself I can't do it, or diminish my abilities, right? Like,
yeah,
and go for it with confidence, because you never know what's going to happen. And I love the idea of, and I've tried to always embody this, but just because things are the way they are now doesn't mean they need to stay that way, and it takes people like you to create new initiatives, programs, or just stand up and say things to make a difference as well. So it's so important.
yeah, exactly. I feel like we're fighting so much to kind of have a space at that table. We can just create our own table. There's like so many incredible people out there. I mean, like I'm sure people who are listening today, like you have great ideas. Like go for it. Believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, who will, right? So just go for it. Go forth and be confident in yourself. I know it's really hard to kind of overcome that imposter syndrome, especially when you're in a new environment. It's happened to me every time I've been promoted. I've had those doubts within myself, but once you start believing in yourself and knowing that you can do it, you can go very far, and people also will join that journey that you're on.
100%, and that's how you grow, by being outside your comfort zone. And if you're not feeling like an imposter, you're probably in the wrong room anyway, because every time you get comfortable, you should try and go into a new room, I think, to
Yeah,
continue to stretch yourself. I think that's like life and careers. I think that's how you develop. Otherwise, it gets too easy. So yeah, keep
yeah.
knocking on doors and going into new rooms, I'd say.
And every mentor I've had has always said, like, Naz, if you're comfortable, you're not learning. Like, you need to be uncomfortable in a situation or every single day, and that's how you know you're growing. And that's something that I've tried to keep in tune with. Like, if I know I'm feeling uncomfortable in a meeting or in a conversation, I'm like, yeah, I'm learning from this. I'm going to embrace it.
Awesome. You've been absolutely tremendous on this podcast, and so I'm sure lots of people listening are really engaged right now, because yeah, it's been quite powerful, and it's good for me to hear some of these things as well. So I'm really enjoying it. And I just wanted to ask you lastly, if you've got any other advice or anything else you want to leave the audience with? I know you're big on books, and so it could be a resource, something like that. But yeah, any last sort of careers advice or anything that you think would be good for people to do next, really?
Yeah, I think personally I'm not a big reader, but some books that I found, and I think that should be a testament. If I am recommending a book, that means it must be really good. So one of the books that I definitely recommend, and I've probably shouted so much about this, and it's Fuck Being Humble by Steph Sword Williams. Check her out. The book is incredible. I think she also does an audiobook as well, but she also does free events. So sign up to those, go to them, learn from it. It's super, super important. And also The Alchemy. So it's called Alchemy, the Surprising Power of Ideas That Don't Make Sense. Again, it's by Rory Sutherland, I believe. That's a really, really great book. But also going out there and having hobbies, be cringy to make yourself interesting, like really, really find your personality and shine with it. I think that's something that I really want to leave the listeners with. Is it's okay if you want to be cringy, like have that personality and speak about your truth.
Incredible. Oh wow, I'm gonna follow that advice as well. I think that's a great point to end on. As I mentioned, we've got a wonderful partnership with UNiDAYS, where we're helping people from our network get roles at UNiDAYS, and lots of people from diverse our community are enjoying life at UNiDAYS and sticking around for a long time as well. So if you're keen for a role at UNiDAYS, do check out our newsletter and our job board at wearediverse.io. And as I said as well, Naz and some other employees are kind enough to give up their time to help mentor individuals from our community as well, which we're seeing is one of the things that it makes a huge difference, as we touched on just now. So having that mentor who's maybe worked in, I don't know, you want to work in data analysis, and they've worked in that area for 10 years already at UNiDAYS or whatever, can be hugely powerful as well. So definitely check all of that out. And yeah, just want to say again, Naz, thanks so much for giving up some time. It means a lot to me and everyone listening as well, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I really hope that this was useful for anyone. And if you have any questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn. More than happy to have a 15-minute chat with anyone or answer any questions.
Oh, you're the best. Thanks so much for that. We'll put your link to your LinkedIn in the description for the episode as well. Awesome. All right, let's leave it there.